All right, everybody okay over there to get started? Ooh, and I hear. All right, I want to take that as a yes. All right, so welcome and thank you for joining us today to discuss Guilford County's broadband internet strategy. We're live streaming this presentation on Guilford County's Facebook right now, so that is why there are some cameras here. Those are the other folks that may be joining us virtually. So this evening, we're going to begin with some introductions of the project team, and then we'll do a brief overview of the broadband strategy and the timeline. We'll follow this by a question and answer session, followed by a couple interactive activities, and we'll finish up with how to stay involved in the process. My name is Sarah Ellis. I work for Public Participation Partners, or P3. P3 is a community engagement consulting firm helping Guilford County and Guidehouse with outreach and engagement for this process. Guidehouse is a consulting firm with a technical expertise in broadband access and service who will help develop a strategy to improve broadband access in Guilford County. I'm also joined here today by my colleagues. This is Deirdre Scanlon and my colleague Simone Robinson over there, also from P3. So we'll dive right into it. This past year and a half, the COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated how much of our daily lives rely on high-speed internet connections. Not having reliable internet access has made this time even more challenging for many. The good news is we expect federal and state funding to help address this issue, which leads to the heart of our project, answering the question of where the high-speed internet gaps are in Guilford County and how we can identify funds to plug these gaps. To give you a sense of the strategy, we included a selection of issues that we plan to address throughout the project. So that's what you're looking at when you see those sort of gray boxes on the further left-hand side of the screen. These include issues related to broadband needs, historical inequities, funding allocation, and opportunities to partner with key stakeholders like internet service providers. At the end of this process, Guilford County will have a broadband strategy that will be shared with the public. It will include recommended broadband projects identified from the Gaps and Needs Infrastructure Report, which will be prioritized and matched to funding sources. The Gaps and Needs Infrastructure Report will look at the current state of broadband in Guilford County. This includes availability, affordability, access, and adoption, as well as a master map and index Guidehouse is developing. Continued stakeholder engagement is important to make the strategy a reality. So special attention will be given to ensure an engaged group of stakeholders can help push the strategy forward. This group of stakeholders will continue the project's work as the broadband task force. Additional deliverables that you'll see out of this project will include 2 surveys and an internet speed test, as well as stakeholder and community engagements through these gaps and opportunity meetings and focus groups. An asset and inventory detailed map, which we will look at on the next slide, is going to show some gaps and opportunities for places where broadband can be increased. And then finally, the last deliverable that you will see out of this is leading practice research with examples from other counties' broadband successes and lessons learned. So to give folks an idea of the broadband map, the broadband index and maps that we are developing, the map that you can see on the screen right now is showing current broadband internet subscription rates in Guilford County. The different shades of blue and white on the map are showing higher and lower rates of broadband subscription. So where you see that there are darker shading, that generally means that there are higher subscriptions. And then where you see there are lighter shading, that means that there are lower subscriptions. And then that small orange call out box on the map is just showing, for example, East Greensboro has some lower rates of broadband subscription, and the same is also true for parts of South High Point. So we have a survey online that we also have paper copies available. Thank you for filling it out. We really appreciate that. We'll also be holding some follow-up strategic approach focus groups. These will be with community-based organizations, municipalities, and other institutions. The purpose of these meetings is to ensure the project team is hearing from Guilford residents who do not have reliable internet access, to go over the strategy to ensure it's realistic, because cities in Guilford have different ways of providing and regulating internet service, so a combined strategy can be helpful. And also to ask for help getting the word out to many people who may not have joined the discussion yet. We'll be sharing project updates from these community meetings at the Guilford County Board of Commissioner meetings and look forward to incorporating your feedback. And then also just to sort of reference what's on the slide here. So where you see that little orange box says this is what's taking place today, that's where we're at in the strategy today. So we're in the process of some community meetings right now. Okay, so do we have any questions or comments either from our audience or from our Facebook live stream before we ask folks a couple questions that we have? No. All right, everybody's feeling good so far. We'll keep going. But if you think of any questions, please do not hesitate. Okay, so we'd like to take some time to discuss how you and the communities you're a part of use the internet through 4 questions. So I'll display them on my screen. I just wanted to give an intro to the next piece that we'll do. The first question we wanted to ask is, what do members of your community use the internet for? And we would love to hear from you if you're comfortable speaking to us.
So internet these days is not just what it used to be, searching, a little bit of exploring, stuff like that. It's become a necessity for almost everyday life, whether that is from the very beginning with education, remote learning. Things of a snow day look like they have disappeared, and students that don't have access to internet of good quality, they have a day without school, but it's a day of absence from school.
Sure.
You get up into, that's not just high school and all, that's college. People that don't want to continue education. You have people that don't, if they don't have it, they can't do continual education. There's a lot of courses that are online now that are not in person.
Yeah.
Work, same thing. Work from home. People get sick. Well, if you don't have reliable internet, you don't have that as an option. So at that point, you're forced to either, you have a sniffle, which these days, you have a sniffle, then you really should think about, do you really need to go into work? Well, people that don't have it are more likely to go into work. And if it is the worst case situation of COVID or the flu, now they're in there, and that's because they don't have, whether they're given the option or not, they don't have the option. That's just work and the requirements. You add in from there, shopping, again, just general, everything's out there. Right now, phone lines are hard to come by.
Yeah.
That is your communication with family, with other people, everything else. So it's pretty much tied into life anymore.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And did want to, for folks who are watching from home or folks watching from here, my colleague Deirdre is going to take notes. And the reason we take notes live is to also make sure that what we are capturing reflects what you are telling us. So if anything looks amiss, please let us know, because it's our goal that we capture things accurately so we can relay that back to Guilford County. So thank you for sharing. That's really helpful. So we have, cool. All right, well, if we can move on to the next question we have then. Thank you for that. So how often do you experience disruptions or slower than expected upload or download speeds? Is your internet service sufficient right now? And we'd love to hear any details about why or why not.
Okay, my internet service at this point is AT&T DSL. I am fortunate because we had the highest speed service for many years. We went ahead and decided a while back. My in-laws, who live a half mile down the road, have, instead of 5, they have 1.5.
Oh.
And AT&T doesn't offer DSL anymore. They cannot increase that. Myself, yes, service disruptions, it's hit or miss at times. Personally, I am in IT. I cannot work from home. I do not have the bandwidth to do it. My wife, for example, she has taken some classes. She cannot turn on the camera during a Zoom call because she does not have the ability for the bandwidth. She'll get most of the class, the discussions, it'll come and go. She worked from home during the COVID time. She routinely had to do stuff, upload it, put it on her phone, drive 5 miles down the road where we can get cell phone service. Oof. And upload the content because we can't from home. So a 5 meg line is not considered high speed. It is definitely not considered broadband. And I don't have any other options in satellite. The current standard satellite offerings now have too much of a delay for it to be used for either of our situations.
Yeah.
So is it sufficient? No, absolutely not.
That is really helpful for us to understand. Thank you for sharing that. That also sounds incredibly frustrating. I'm sorry to hear about your internet experience. And then we just have two more that we'd like to ask you. So our next one, and you started to allude to this earlier, but who in your community have you seen struggling with accessing the internet, and what are the barriers that they face? And again, you can build on things you told us previously.
I mean, it's primarily having the infrastructure.
Yeah.
For the service. AT&T no longer offers DSL. From where I'm located at, I can see it's country neighbor, so it's not 50 foot away. It's 150 yards from my property line is where spectrum ends. They are not expanding. There's a whole section, and it's common. You get just a little bit off the main road, they stop, and then from there, you have nothing. But the biggest thing is can you physically get it? Answer's no. Then you start talking about your other options. You have cellular, which again, we have poor reception, but it is capped, it is expensive, and it's capped per gigabyte. So at that point in time, if you are going to school, that's all you do. You have to focus on that barrel of data you have. And once you go over it, it gets very expensive.
Yeah.
Satellite is the same way. It is capped on a data point. How much data can you use? And you have to kind of ration that if you do that. I've known several people who have had to do that. And their children have gone through, and somebody watches a couple YouTube videos, and all of a sudden they're either a lot more expensive. I mean, just think about the old days of limited cell phone data or limited cell phone minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how people have to budget that when they have to do another option.
Sure. That is really helpful to understand. That's also a great example of the days of limited cell phone minutes. I think that's incredibly relatable.
And it's just a whole, I mean, it's exaggerated now that it's not, cell phones are unlimited, but the data, when you do it aside from on a phone, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. I'll let Deirdre capture that, and then we'll ask you one more question about your experience with service. Just double check. Oh, two. Apologies. Two more. Okay. So this one we can just go to that one. That's okay. Okay, so I think you started to mention this a little bit, but are there locations in Guilford County where the internet or cell phone service is not reliable or not existent?
Yes. Yes,
No
very much
hesitation. And as many specifics as you could give us, that'd be helpful, because again, what we'll do with this information is provide it to the county and to Guidehouse, who has the sort of technical knowledge for how to solve the problem, just to make sure they have the best picture they can of.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, there are spots that do not. I mean, just down the road from here. I will point out that the survey that y'all put out is flawed because it asks, what service do you have? You have DSL. And I will call out, like I've said a couple of times, AT&T is not expanding.
Yeah.
So myself, having lived where I am, I have DSL. My in-laws, half mile down the street, have DSL. Their new neighbors that just moved in cannot get DSL.
Yeah,
that's, I think in the survey, that is something that does need to be broken out that may give false coverage. Cell phone service, it's obvious. There are pockets where service does not work well.
Right.
With the transition to 5G, it does appear that there are more holes forming. I'm experiencing this even in Greensboro. We're having, with my work, I deal with it, and we're having people pick up less coverage because they may not have a 5G phone, and that service, they are moving antennas, and we're having a lot more people with drop calls. So what we have right now may be different in the very near future.
Yeah.
But yes, where I am, DSL, I have to do Wi-Fi calling. In the house, 90% of the time, I won't maintain a cell phone call.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that about the survey too. It's helpful for us to understand that That's exactly why we want to hold these meetings, is we have a basic idea, but to get a more granular sense of that is incredibly helpful. Thank you. We'll make sure we capture that guy. Oh, no, that's okay. Just like to be thorough so the county gets a very clear picture.
Well, thank you for giving the time for input.
Yeah,
and
it's our
capturing
pleasure.
this.
Okay, so I know we've talked about sort of what's not working, but how would the community benefit if the internet service was better?
I mean, it's general with everybody out there. Right now, it gives opportunities for people to do stuff that's not in person. So again, learning, that's obvious. Again, it's good for the community as more people go online with stuff, because online is not necessarily just your large providers. A lot of your small places are now having website, online ordering, stuff like that. So even within the community, you've got people right now that if they had service, they would still be going to some of these local people probably versus Amazon. Okay.
Sure.
Local businesses. I mean, there is a lot, when you get out into the more rural areas, you pick up a lot of small, basically self business. And again, small families doing stuff, and everything does tie into having internet. And it would, in theory, improve their experience. Again, in case of my in-laws.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's such a basic service now. Thank you. That is really helpful to understand. I'll glance over to my colleagues over there, and it looks like there are no comments. We're good. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. We have a couple more pieces of information to share with you, just sort of on next steps and to wrap up our conversation today. So there are a couple different ways to get plugged in, and we have there are links online as well as on the papers that we have in the back of the room. So there are two surveys. One of them is the North Carolina Broadband Speed and Survey Test. So this one is administered by NC State, and it helps them get an understanding of exactly where folks' internet service has gaps. So it requires going online and putting in your address, and the reason it asks for that is it helps them understand exactly where the gaps in internet are. So that's one piece. And then there's also, and I thank you for taking it again, Sarah, the Guilford County Internet Device Access Survey. So that's one that we have paper copies in the room. And then for folks listening online, there's a link at publicinput.com/broadband5, or the link at the bottom of your screen in the blue bar. So then you can access both those surveys online and help give us some feedback. And then the last piece is we will be holding additional community meetings, a couple more coming up this week. I mentioned the strategic focus groups. Those are mostly going to be with municipalities and folks from community organizations to try to help continue moving the work of this project forward. And you can find information about all this online in one place on that website. And then finally, we just wanted to ask that for folks listening or folks in attendance today, if you would please help spread the word about the project to your friends, your neighbors, your family, ask them to take the survey. The more we hear from you, the better data we have to then give to the county. So anything folks can do to spread the word is incredibly helpful. And then I just want to leave folks with some contact information. So I know there's a lot of names on here. We'll just kind of show you who you're chatting with. So we want to leave you with the county staff's contact information. So the county manager and assistant county manager are your contacts at Guilford. So comments, questions, and concerns are welcome to go to those folks. They are in charge of the project. And then from our consulting team, my colleague Simone Robinson, she is our engagement lead. And then Sophia Pan, you did not meet, but Sophia is part of the Guidehouse team. So she's one of the technical staff, and her contact's on here as well. So questions, comments are welcome to all of those folks who are overseeing the process. And I'll just leave one final reminder for folks out there, please take the survey. It is incredibly helpful to us that we understand your needs, or if you notice things on the survey that don't make sense, tell us those too, because that helps as well. So thanks for the time attending our meeting, and thank you for sharing with us. It's really helpful to hear from you. We appreciate it. I hope everybody has a nice evening.